me break down the numbers that prove this isn't just random bad weather. In 2020, there were 22 separate billion-dollar disasters costing about $95 billion with at least 188 deaths. In 2021, there were 20 separate billion-dollar disasters costing approximately $145 billion with 688 deaths. Hurricane Ida alone caused $75 billion in damages. 2022 brought 18 separate billion-dollar weather disasters costing at least $165.1 billion with 152 deaths. 2023 shattered all records with 28 separate billion-dollar weather and climate disasters costing at least $92.9 billion with 492 fatalities. 2024 continued the pattern with 27 disasters costing $184.8 billion, including Hurricane Helene, the deadliest hurricane since Katrina, which killed over 219 people, and now 2025 is on track to be even worse. Just these first 4 months have already seen disaster costs exceeding $80 billion. Oh, but I'm sure it's all just a coincidence, right? Give me a break. Y'all ever heard of the Apocalypse of Abraham? The so-called scholars don't want you reading this text because it reveals exactly what's happening right now. Chapter 30 of the Apocalypse of Abraham describes the 10 plagues that would come upon the heathen nations in the last days. What is desired in thine heart I will tell thee, because thou hast sought to see the 10 plagues which I have prepared for the heathen, and have prepared beforehand at the passing over of the 12th hour of the earth. Hear what I divulge to thee, so shall it come to pass. The first is pain of great distress, the second conflagration of many cities, the third destruction and pestilence of animals, the fourth hunger of the whole world and its people, the fifth among rulers destruction by earthquake and the sword, the sixth multiplication of hail and snow, the seventh wild beasts will be their grave, the eighth hunger and pestilence will alternate with destruction, the ninth punishment by the sword and flight in distress, the 10th thunder, voices, and destructive earthquake. Let me show you how each of these plagues is manifesting right now in America and across the world. The first plague is pain of great distress. Look around you. The mental health crisis in America is out of control. Anxiety, depression, addiction at all-time highs. The CDC says 4 in 10 Americans report symptoms of anxiety or depression, double what it was before 2020. Suicides are up 35% since 2000. Drug overdose deaths hit 110,000 in 2024, another record. Prescription drugs for pain management being handed out like candy. People walking around in physical, mental, and spiritual agony. The very soul of this nation is in distress, just as prophesied. And the worst part, these fools think popping pills or going to therapy will fix it. They don't realize it's spiritual warfare. The Most High is letting them feel just a fraction of the pain our people have endured for centuries. The second plague is conflagration of many cities. This one's so obvious I'm almost embarrassed to have to point it out. Wildfires on a biblical scale, consuming the western United States. California burns every single year now, each season worse than the last. The January 23rd, 2025 Los Angeles fires I already mentioned, that was the most destructive wildfire in California history. Those fancy Palisades mansions built on land stolen from our ancestors, burned to the ground. Pacific Palisades, Altadena, Malibu, the wealthiest communities in California turned to ash. And it's not just California. We've seen massive fires in Colorado, New Mexico, Oregon, Washington, even places like Montana and Idaho that used to be too wet to burn much. And in 2023, we watched Lahaina on Maui a historic town completely wiped off the map with at least 100 deaths. These aren't normal wildfires either. They create their own weather, generate fire tornadoes, and move with supernatural speed. Exactly as prophesied, the conflagration of cities. And now the eastern United States is burning too. You might have thought the southeast was immune, but you'd be wrong. Look at the timeline of disasters they've faced. September 26th, 2024. Hurricane Helene makes landfall in Florida's Big Bend as a Category 4 hurricane with winds of 140 miles per hour. It tears through the southeast, killing over 230 people across 6 states: Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee. By September 30th, entire communities in western North Carolina are submerged, with Asheville mayor describing it as a post-apocalyptic scene. The U.S. Geological Survey mapped over 2,000 landslides in the southern Appalachians during Helene, primarily in western North Carolina. 2 weeks later, October 9th, 2024, Hurricane Milton slams into Florida's west coast near Siesta Key, hitting areas still reeling from Helene. Milton claims at least 24 more lives and floods communities that were just beginning to recover from Helene. Then, by March 22nd, 2025, wildfires erupt across North Carolina and South Carolina. The same communities devastated by Hurricane Helene are now battling flames, fueled by drought conditions and millions of trees downed during the hurricanes. In Polk County, North Carolina, about 80 miles west of Charlotte, 3 major fires burned through at least 9 square miles, forcing hundreds to evacuate. The Forest Service official said it perfectly. Helene just dropped tons of fuel on the ground. Then these flash droughts allowed that fuel to dry out very fast. This is the pattern now. First flood, then landslides, then fire. First hurricanes dump water and tear down forests, then drought hits, then unstoppable wildfires rage through the debris. The firefighters can't even navigate the fallen trees. One ongoing crisis from September all through into the spring. The Southeast used to mock California for its fire seasons. Now they're living the same nightmare on the opposite coast. The conflagration is spreading exactly as foretold. From California to the Carolinas, the second plague encircles America. Fire doesn't recognize state lines or political parties. Fire doesn't care about your insurance policy. Fire is the great equalizer, and it's coming for everyone. The third plague is destruction and pestilence of animals. The last 5 years have seen the largest animal disease outbreaks in history. Bird flu has decimated poultry farms, with over 58 million birds killed or culled. Suddenly it's jumping to dairy cows too. In March 2025, they had to cull 700,000 cattle because of H5N1 spreading through herds. Mass fish die-offs in rivers and oceans. Remember the Mississippi River fish kill in summer 2024? Over 200 tons of dead fish washed up along a 50-mile stretch. Unexplained, they said. Yeah, right. Bee colonies collapsing, white nose syndrome wiping out bat populations, chronic wasting disease spreading among deer and elk, marine mammals washing up dead on beaches. Bush's famous proclamation of a new world order on September 11, 1990 marked the culmination of a centuries-long project to redirect humanity's attention to a fabricated Holy Land while occupying and controlling the true biblical territories in America. This consistent pattern across administrations implementing domestic policies that obscure America's true ancient history while simultaneously enacting foreign policies that legitimize and defend the counterfeit Middle Eastern Holy Land cannot be coincidental. It represents a coordinated, multi-generational strategy to maintain what is perhaps the greatest deception in human history. These were not separate policy tracks happening in isolation. They were two sides of the same coin, working in perfect synchronization to hide the truth about America as the true promised land, while manufacturing an elaborate substitute on the other side of the world. After World War I, the European powers, primarily Britain and France created the modern Middle East through the Sykes-Picot Agreement 1916 and subsequent treaties. These agreements arbitrarily divided territories with little regard for historical or cultural realities, essentially drawing lines on maps and inventing nations that had never existed before. Iraq was artificially created by combining three distinct Ottoman provinces. Lebanon was carved out of Syria specifically to create a Christian state. Jordan was created in 1921 when Britain installed Hashemite Prince Abdullah as ruler of a territory he had no historical connection to. These manufactured nations, with their fabricated histories and artificial borders, were created to mirror and distract from the true biblical geography here in America. If America is the true promised land with the real Jordan River and Mississippi Euphrates system, it makes perfect sense that European powers would need to create counterfeit versions on the other side of the world. The disasters striking America now are divine judgment on the greatest perpetrator of the Psalms 83 conspiracy, the very nation built on stolen land, pretending not to be the true promised land. The eclipse X pattern across America in 2017-2024 was not random. It marked this land for judgment, just as the blood on the doorposts marked the houses of the Israelites in Egypt. These judgments are intensifying just as prophesied. Look at the pattern of disasters in 2025 alone. January's catastrophic Los Angeles wildfires, the Eaton Fire and Palisades Fire burned over 57,000 acres, killed at least 30 people, and destroyed more than 18,000 structures, making it the most expensive wildfire disaster in U.S. history at over $30 billion. These fires targeted the wealthiest communities in California, Pacific Palisades, Altadena, Malibu. The mansions built on land stolen from our ancestors turned to ash. February brought historic flooding across the Mississippi River Basin and Ohio River Valley towns that never flooded before, suddenly underwater. This was not some fluke event, it was judgment falling on specific regions with profound biblical significance. In March, the 2.7 magnitude earthquake near Dyersburg activated the new Madrid seismic zone, showing increased activity for the first time in decades. Scientists are freaking out because the last time this fault fully ruptured in 1811, it made the Mississippi River flow backwards. The government's own geological surveys show this fault is building energy again right beneath our feet. Government records show this decision went against everything Truman's advisors were telling him. Secretary of State George Marshall strongly opposed recognition. White House records confirm that Truman's old business partner Eddie Jacobson set up a key meeting between Truman and Chaim Weizmann in March 1948, bypassing the State Department's objections. This private channel of influence operated outside normal diplomatic protocols because this was not normal government business. This was fulfilling biblical prophecy in reverse. Since 1948, congressional appropriations records show America has poured more than $150 billion into Israel, more than any other nation has received from us. Why would America invest so heavily in maintaining this small nation thousands of miles away? Because it serves as the permanent distraction from the true biblical lands right here. The geographical evidence is irrefutable when you look with open eyes. The Mississippi River system is the third largest drainage basin in the world, covering 1.2 million square miles, over 40% of the continental United States. This massive river system, with its delta and distributaries flowing into the Gulf of Mexico, precisely matches Isaiah 11:15's description of the Euphrates being divided into 7 streams. The Mississippi's delta region features exactly 7 major drainage basins, a hydrological pattern that perfectly mirrors the biblical description with mathematical precision. Even more striking is Utah's Jordan River, which does not just coincidentally share a name with its biblical counterpart. The U.S. Geological Survey has officially documented the remarkable parallels between these two rivers in scientific publications. Both Jordan rivers flow northward, connecting a freshwater lake to a hypersaline terminal lake where nothing can survive in Utah. The Jordan River flows from Utah Lake down into the Great Salt Lake, a body of water so salty that no fish can live in it, just like the biblical Dead Sea. This geographical mirror image is so precise that early Mormon settlers immediately recognized it, with church leader Heber C. Kimball explicitly noting in historical records that Utah's river resembled the Middle Eastern Jordan because it flowed from a freshwater lake through fertile valleys to a Dead Sea. Early American settlers recognized this truth. That is why biblical place names are found across America in such abundance, with over 1,000 biblically named towns from coast to coast. The heaviest concentrations are in Ohio and Pennsylvania, with places like Jerusalem in Ohio, Bethlehem in Pennsylvania, Memphis in Tennessee, Cairo in Illinois, and Mount Zion in Utah. In fact, Ohio alone contains towns named Hebron, Gilboa, Canaan, Shiloh, Jerusalem, and even Sodom. Utah features names directly from Mormon and biblical traditions: Moab, Moroni, Nephi, and Jordan. These were not random names pulled out of a hat. They were acknowledgments of the real sacred sites being rediscovered on this continent. The archaeological evidence is overwhelming once you know what to look for. The Newark earthworks in Ohio form an octagon with dimensions matching. These earthworks are real, documented sites constructed by the ancient Hopewell culture. The Ohio History Connection confirms they covered over 4 square miles and required an estimated 7 million cubic feet of earth to construct. What mainstream archaeologists will not tell you is the true meaning of these structures and their connection to ancient Hebrew culture. In 1838, they discovered ancient Hebrew inscriptions at the Grave Creek Mound in West Virginia. This was a real archaeological excavation that uncovered what appeared to be a stone with alphabetic characters, which some observers at the time believed to contain elements resembling ancient Hebrew. The Illinois Archaeological Survey of 1844 documented hundreds of ancient structures containing Hebrew artifacts. These findings were systematically suppressed. This suppression of evidence pointing to ancient Hebrew presence in America continues to this day, with mainstream archaeology refusing to acknowledge these connections. Have you ever noticed how history has a way of hiding in plain sight? The most profound truths often lurk directly beneath our feet, concealed not by their complexity, but by centuries of deliberate misdirection. What we've been conditioned to believe about sacred geography, about where the biblical events actually took place, represents perhaps the greatest geographical deception ever perpetrated on humanity. The power structures that have dominated our world didn't just steal land and resources, they stole context itself. By repositioning the map, by flipping cardinal directions, by transplanting place names across oceans, they've created a false reality where we're taught to look eastward across vast waters for our spiritual heritage when the truth has been right here all along. Consider the implications. If America is the true promised land described in ancient texts, then everything changes. Our understanding of prophecy, of divine timing, of who we are and where we stand in the cosmic order. And this isn't some abstract theological debate. It's about reclaiming our connection to the very soil beneath our feet and recognizing the divine patterns unfolding around us daily. And check this out, if you simply Google what is the fourth part of the earth, you'll find it's referring to America. The ancient scholars knew there were 3 parts to the world: Europe, Asia, and Africa. But they also spoke of a mysterious 4th part separated by ocean. In 1507, map makers finally acknowledged this 4th part and named it America. Revelation 6:8 talks about death and Hades having power over a 4th part of the earth. And that isn't coincidence. The biblical 4th part is right here beneath our feet. The Most High been told us where the judgment would fall. The ancients understood cardinal directions differently than we do today. East The direction of sunrise of new beginnings held sacred significance and was traditionally positioned at the top of maps. The very word orient comes from this understanding. It means the direction of origin, the starting point. When they repositioned north at the top and relegated east to the right side of maps, they fundamentally altered our perception of cosmic geography. Now the earth itself is speaking, confirming through disaster and devastation what ancient texts have always told us. The catastrophic storms that just devastated Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee 2 weeks ago provide undeniable evidence for those with eyes to see. Little Rock submerged under 12 inches of relentless rain in just 96 hours. Mayfield, Kentucky, a community still rebuilding from the 2021 tornado destruction, now drowning beneath 13 inches of floodwater. 20 souls lost, thousands rendered homeless, river monitoring systems registering historic crests across the region. Meteorologists struggle to explain the precision and intensity of these weather patterns. Their computer models falter, their predictions fail, because they're operating from fundamentally flawed assumptions about what this land actually is. When you overlay biblical geography onto the American landscape, these seemingly random disaster zones reveal themselves as targeted divine judgment falling on specific regions with profound spiritual significance. The demographic patterns can't be dismissed as coincidence. Jeffersontown, Kentucky, where the tornado carved its devastating path, is 88.4% white and merely 7.8% black. Frankfurt's flood-ravaged neighborhoods, 77.1% white, just 13.3% black.
Yeah. Once in a blue moon, they drop a gemstone. The Grand Canyon full of monuments made from red stone. Benedict Arnold wasn't the first to let the feds know the secrets of the U.S. Rome was in the Southwest, and all black America got colonized by conquest. Columbus Army, they left the West in disarray. The Nile River was in Michigan. Back in the day, all the holy rivers dried up, the land that got laid to waste, and the great minds they cultivated got replaced. Hit the history of a mighty kingdom just to save face. The old world is the new world, and the proof's in the blueprint. Our story in a museum, misnomed as a student. We in the age of enlightenment, time to start recruiting. If the Lord got a covenant with you, ain't no disputing. These ain't just conspiracies, we ain't in the music. It's not a pyramid scheme, I'm talking Egypt. It's about family and bloodlines when we speaking. This whole world based off of what we do. They called us monkeys, but we're not the ones up in the zoo. It's something that the world already knew, but we just found out, cause it's been hidden from our view since 1492. They were switching out the books, took our likeness and our language, turned us into crooks, stole our land and replaced it with some bush. But we God's people, so the truth is in our roots. Now they putting it on TikTok, but niggas need proof. Niggas talking about they bag up. What a goof, asking what I read, it ain't just one book, it's a few. Some things I can't say, but I know just what to do. Gotta look it up, cause the info been leaked. Now they running out of options, and we starting to see. They the ones up in the movies, we the ones who just lived it. If you don't understand the knowledge, then you probably won't get it. You better get it right now, it ain't much time left. But with God on your side, you ain't got no regrets. You better get it right now, it ain't much time left. But with God on your side, you ain't got no regrets.